Hi there, Tenzi here. Today we'll make this pretty hat with this red heart super saver in the color retro stripes. These are beautiful neon stripes. So the yarn is 5 ounces or 141 grams for 236 yards or 215 meters. The recommended crochet hook size is 5.5 and the knitting needle is 5 millimeters. For my whole hat, I used one skein and I have a little tiny bit left. So this is how much I have left. And let me show you the overview of the hat before it's sewn together. So we start with crocheting a panel, which actually is divided in 3 parts. And we start the panel from the side and we are finishing on the other side. So we just go back and forth in rows, creating those beautiful stitches. The rows, each row has 3 parts: the brim, the body, and the crown of the hat. For the brim and the crown, we have equal number of stitches, and the body, we create all these single crochets and these bubbles as we go. All right, let's see how we do it. Let's start. We'll start with a chain. And that chain will be long about 12 inches for a slouchy head. If you want a smaller hat or not making it slouchy, then you chain less chains. So we start with a slip knot around your hook and we start chaining as long as we want. All right, so let's say I want the hat to be this long for the sake of this tutorial. But for the hat, I did make 12 inches to make it slouchy. So now that you have your chain at the desired length, you need 2 markers, stitch markers, which will mark where our brim will be and where our crown will be of the hat. So I left 8 stitches for the brim and 8 stitches for the crown. But if you go for a smaller hat, leave a smaller crown. The brim depends on if you want the brim to fold or not to fold. Because I want it folded, I made it 8 stitches, but you could make it bigger, you could make it smaller. So turning my chain from that side where the stitches look like V's or like little hearts to the back where we have little bumps, I'm counting 8 bumps. So we're gonna skip the first one because we are skipping the first stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in that 8 bump will be my brim. Going back to the other end of the chain, we're gonna count again 8 stitches without the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's say we're gonna go like that. So in that first row, we'll be doing 2 different type of stitches. We're gonna skip the first chain from the hook and into the second stitch or into that bump we will be doing, and the slip stitch is we go through the stitch, we pull our working yarn through the stitch and then we slip it through the stitch on our hook. And the next one will go into the bump of the stitch and then pull our working yarn through that stitch and keep pulling it through the stitch on the hook. And these are our 8 slip stitches. So we keep going to our marker. That's why we have markers here to help us not get lost. All right, into the next bump. And I'll meet you when I reach the stitch marker. All right, so here I'm at the stitch marker, and with that last slip stitch, I'll put my marker there. So I know for the next row, I need to do slip stitches. So for the space between the 2 stitch markers, we will do just single crochets. The single crochet is we are going into the bump, we pull our working yarn through, we have 2 loops now on our hook, we yarn over and slip through both of those stitches. All right, one more time. Through the bump of the hook, yarn over, pull through those 2 stitches, and we keep going till we reach the next stitch marker. This number of stitches does not really matter because we can do a hat any size we want. All right, so I'll meet you when I get to the next stitch marker. All right, so here I'm at the stitch marker, and over here till the end of the chain I will be doing slip stitches again. So pull your yarn through your loops and then put your stitch marker into the first slip stitch you did. Keep making slip stitches till the end of the chain. And I'll meet you when I'm done. All right, and I did the last slip stitch here. Before we turn, we chain 1, and then we turn. We skip that first chain we just did, and into the next stitch, but into the back loops only, we'll do slip stitches. So we keep doing slip stitches into the back loops. So here we grab one side of the stitch, pull through yarn, and pull your yarn through the hook, through the loop on your hook. All right, one more time. Go through the back loop of the stitch, yarn over, pull through, and we start getting those flat stitches which look a tiny bit different, and they're lower in size than those single crochets here. All right, and I'll meet you here at the stitch marker again. So here is the stitch marker, and that was my last slip stitch into that stitch marker, and then I'll move it here, or you can just count 8 stitches. That will be okay too. So now I keep going doing single crochets into the back loops of the next section. All right, here we go, single crochets into the back loop only till we reach to the marker, where we'll do again slip stitches till the end of the row. And I'll meet you there. So here is the stitch marker. I'll do my first slip stitch. And I'll put my stitch marker again back there. And there we go till the end of the row. And my last slip stitch here, chain 1, and then turn. So what did we get so far? We made just 1 ridge now between the bubbles, and we will be doing 3 ridges between each row of bubbles. However, each row of ridges here is made actually from 2 rows of single crochets. So going back and forth for 2 rows of single crochets into the back loop creates that ridge. So for the first pattern only, for the first repeat, let's see, where is my connection? Let's see, there. Where did I connect the sides? Here. All right, here. So between the yellow and that green blue, I made 2 rows of ridges, and then I made the bubbles, and then with the next set of bubbles I made 3 ridges. The reason for that was when I reached till the end and I have my last row of bubbles, I wanted to have 1 last row of ridges. So when I connect the sides here, when I have those slip stitches here connecting them, it will be almost invisible here, my connection. Otherwise, there could have been a problem here connecting the sides to the bubbles, because I had to finish with the bubble and then 3 rows of ridges. That's the reason here I went only with 2 rows at the beginning, and everywhere else there are 3. So a bubble, a row of bubbles, and then 3 ridges, which is actually 6 rows of single crochets into the back loop, and then we have bubbles, and then I have 3 ridges here. So we're gonna again skip the first chain, and we're gonna be doing slip stitches till the end of the row. So we're gonna be repeating those 2 rows one more time, and then we're gonna get 1 ridge again in order to get this. All right, so we did 2 ridges now here, or 4 rows of crocheting following the pattern, and now it's time to make those bubbles. So again, we're gonna go into the back loops of those stitches, and once we reach into the first stitch marker, we're gonna be creating the bubbles. So again, we chain 1, I chained here already, and we turn, and we slip stitch into the back loops till the stitch marker. It's time for the row of bubbles. So it's quite easy. We're gonna be doing double crochets into the same space. So yarn over, go through the stitch. We are working again into the back loops of the stitch when making those bubbles, and we pull through the first 2 loops, and the new loop is waiting on our hook. Then we yarn over again, and we are doing again another double crochet, but just halfway through. Pull through the first 2 loops, wait on your hook, yarn over one more time. So we do 4 double crochets there, but halfway through. Pull through the first. Now we have here 3 double crochets, the 3 loops on top, and the first one 4, but they're gonna be 5. So 1 more double crochet. All right, there it is. We have 4 double crochets here, the loop from the previous stitch, and now we gather them all together, and into the next stitch we'll do a single crochet into the back loop again. So here is our single crochet, and here is the first bubble, and we do the same thing again. Yarn over, go into the back loop of the next stitch, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, go into the same stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over one more time, go into the same stitch, yarn over, pull through, and one more time. Oh, we already have 3, so we one more time, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, and now we have 4 double crochets here that we'll finish with 1, yarn over and pull through all of the stitches. And now into the same next stitch we'll do a single crochet, and here's our second bubble. And one last time, 1 yarn over into the next stitch, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops, draw your yarn through all of the loops on your hook, and then single crochet into the next stitch into the back loop of the next stitch. If you the longer the hat, the more bubbles you'll have. The smaller the hat, you'll have less bubbles. And once we reach till the marker, we'll do our slip stitches again as well, and I'll meet you at the marker. All right, here I'm at my marker, and I'll do my slip stitches again till the end of the row. So I'm at the end of my row, chain 1, turn, and into the back loops again I do my slip stitches till I reach the stitch marker. So here I am at the bubbles, and here into the back loop of each bubble I'll be doing single crochets. Again into the back loop. Till the end of, those bubbles, till I reach the stitch marker again. And that prepares us for the next ridge that's gonna be forming. All right, and I'll meet you at the end. All right, so we chain one and then we turn and we do slip stitches again till the stitch marker. Then we'll do again single crochets in that section, the body of the hat, and then slip stitches again at the end. And we will do that till we get 3 rows of ridges here. So when we look at them like that, you have 3 separate rows of ridges, and then it's time for new bubbles. All right, and we'll keep going like that till the last row of bubbles, and then we'll have 1 ridge only. So that's how we're gonna finish the hat. So you just keep repeating those rows and those bubbles till you have 1 big panel that can go around your head. And that's it. That's how the pattern goes. It's quite easy. All right, so I'll meet you at the end of the panel. So now it's time to connect the sides together and close the top. So since we started with 2 rows of single crochets, we need the 3rd row so we can have a full repeat here of those 3 raised rows or 6 single crochet rows. So we ended up with a 1 ridge here of 2 single crochet rows, and once we put them together we'll have 3 of those raised rows. So we fold our hat so the right side is inside, and starting from that corner we still have the yarn on. We will be crocheting slip stitches into each stitch here so we can close that side. So I'll go under those V stitches here. Let me zoom. Okay, I'll grab those V stitches that are closer to me, and I'll grab a V stitch from the other side. And then I will get my working yarn through there. And I have my first stitch here. So now I'll go into the next V stitch here, into that V, into the top stitch, and then I'll go across to the other side and grab 1 stitch from there, yarn over, pull through those 2 stitches, and keep pulling that loop through that stitch on your hook. And that's it. So we keep repeating. We go through the stitch that's closer to me, then the one from the opposite side. Then I grab my working yarn, slip through those stitches, and then slip through the stitch on my hook. And that's how we're gonna go. We're gonna slip stitch through each of those stitches and the stitch on our hook. So we pull through both of them and we keep pulling through the stitch that's on our hook. And that's how it's gonna look on this side, and that's how it is on this side. So we'll keep working on that till the end of the row, and I'll meet you there. All right, so here is my last loop, and I'll pull my yarn through it or do a chain and finish your yarn there. Okay, so now that I'm done, let's look in the front. And I have to pick a side which will be the brim and which will be the top of my hat. So you can check if your transitions here are better, if you flip over this side, how it will look. So it's really up to you how you want to do it. Because I got those stitches here, and then when I open the brim on the other side, when I fold the brim to the other side, I'll have better looking stitches here. I think this will be my bottom and this will be the top of my hat. So actually then I have to cut my yarn here so I can use it for the other side. So I'll cut here a short tail so I can weave that in. And on the other side, however, I will get to close it. So I'll go again on the inside of the hat and I'll do that thing. I can remove my markers there and I'll grab my needle. So we'll go and we'll pick one stitch from that top of the hat. So start anywhere you want and you just pick one little strand from each raised ridge here. All right, and I'll meet you when I pick all my stitches. So I picked all my stitches here and I'll pull from the longer side so I have the least amount of yarn left over that I need to weave in. And let's go. So I'll use both ends just to close that hole. Tie it really well. And I'll cut my yarn because I will be weaving this end anyway. And with my needle, I will help myself and I'll extra secure that opening. All right, so here is the moment of truth. All right, oh, look at these pretty colors on top. Oh, just so yummy. All right, let me zoom some more. Look at this. Oh, so pretty. Those colors pop so well. And those bubbles, they just give that texture we need to keep us warm in the winter.